Welcome back to the Make Time for Success podcast. This is episode number 290. Today, I am thrilled to welcome my friend and colleague, James Laughlin, to the show. He is a 7-time world champion musician, #1 bestselling author of the book, Habits of High Performers, and a global keynote speaker renowned for his high performance leadership strategies. Whether he's advising in boardrooms across London or on missions to Antarctica, James is focused on helping leaders and teams to make high performance their new normal. He has developed so many proven tools for achieving elite results, and he shares a bunch of them with us very generously in this episode today. So let's go listen to his wisdom together now. Hi, I'm Dr. Christine Lee, and I'm a psychologist and a procrastination coach. I've helped thousands of people move past procrastination and overwhelm so they could begin working to their potential. In this podcast, you're going to learn powerful strategies for getting your mind, body, and energy to work together so that you can focus on what's really important and accomplish the goals you want to achieve. When you start living within your full power, you're going to see how being productive can be easy and how you can create success on demand. Welcome to the Make Time for Success podcast. Hi, everyone. It is Christine. I'm back again, this time with a very special guest. I have James Laughlin with me. His podcast is The Habits of High Performers. James, welcome to the show, first of all.
Christine, so good to see you again. Nice to be on the other seat.
I'm really excited for this conversation, especially since I know how you think from our first conversation. I know that you have been coaching world leaders, government leaders, highest performers, creatives, world champions, and you've written this beautiful book, Habits of High Performers. Could you start us off by describing what this book is, what it means to you, and who you wrote it for?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Christine, when people hear high performance or high performers, they often think athletes and they think, it's for the select few. But I'm here to say that nobody is born a high performer. High performance is not through hustle. I'm a very anti-hustle person. So you don't do it through hustle. You don't do it through luck. High performance is reached through habits, simple habits done well consistently. And over the last decade or so, I've been coaching and studying the highest performers across so many fields. Why did I want to do that? Well, I want the everyday human to be able to take those habits and apply them to their lives so that they can thrive in life and work. And so essentially, the book is really for someone who wants to thrive more. And so they might not necessarily want to be a gold medalist or run a country, but just have more joy and more fulfillment.
Terrific. What do you think drives that from inside you, if you could articulate that?
Yeah, interesting. So for me, as a young guy growing up in Northern Ireland, I grew up in what they would call the Troubles. And so there was a lot of conflict around me. And I had one thing that really kept me on the straight and narrow, which was drumming, a very specific style of drumming. I was fortunate to become a world solo drumming champion at 13 and then again at 14. And I was really driven to win. And I thought, this feels good. And I like the celebration. I want more of this. And so as a young kid, so fired up. And as a young man, I just wanted to win at all costs. And sadly, that ended in, divorce. That ended in a really poor sense of well-being. That ended in me using alcohol to de-stress, to celebrate, to connect with others. I realized I was a high performer in one area of my life, but an incredibly low performer in the areas that actually mattered most. So that was a big turning point for me.
So was it that you wanted to spare others that kind of difficulty and conflict around achievement?
Yeah, honestly, there was probably a selfishness to it as well. Like, I personally didn't want to navigate that again and have that suffering. I felt if I keep doing the same thing, I'm not learning. So initially it was just like, James, you need to sort your stuff out. Like, come on, like you can't be doing this over and over. You got to learn. And as I started going down that path of introspection, I realized, I could actually share this with another person who might be challenged the same. So certainly it started very selfishly, but I realized actually I can help others too.
This is beautiful. And thank you so much. You've already been helping me. I really enjoyed the book. I want to say for anyone who's interested in just opening up your mindset about what is possible for you, this is basically a blueprint. It's a guidebook. There's a very loving tone that James uses, if I may say that. It's both clear and loving at the same time, which I think is a beautiful thing to achieve in a book, because you and I both have read a lot of this kind of material, and to have this kind of clarity is a real achievement. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much. That's lovely.
Okay. So I'm curious about the 13-year-old. I'm a psychologist. So I'm going to ask you about that 13-year-old boy, and maybe the boy just before the solo medalist, the grand achievement. What helped you to be excellent in that particular craft?
Mm.
What did you have to draw upon and find in yourself to do that at 13?
Yeah, it's really interesting. When you're in it, you don't really see it. You're just doing the thing, but it's nice to look back retrospectively. So as a kid, looking back at my kid self, I could see that I was very hungry, like hunger to learn. I was very curious. From 5 years of age, the highlight of my year was getting the Guinness World Record Book at Christmas and reading it cover to cover and sharing stories. And you the same?
I was the same, completely the same. That's so funny. I've never heard a single person say that before.
That's
so
brilliant.
Anyway, I completely identify. Go ahead.
That's awesome. So I wanted to know things and learn things. And my grandparents took me on a trip to Canada around the age of 13. And that really opened my eyes to, whoa, there's a big world out here. So with drumming, I just thought, there's nothing else that I'm actually getting kudos for. I'm not getting celebrated in any other area of my life, but I'm getting such good feedback from my teachers and my headmaster, even at school. And so I really doubled down on going, well, if I keep getting patted on the back, why don't I just try and become the best I can be? And for me, there's a very competitive, almost like an obsessive drive. I was like, I want to beat my competitors. And if I'm not practicing at 7 a.m., they'll be up practicing at 7 a.m. So I read Timothy Galway's book at 12 years of age. It was called The Inner Game of Music. He also wrote The Inner Game of Golf, which is probably more well known. And that got me realizing that actually winning is an inside sport. It's not an outside sport. And so I started working on my mindset and self-belief, pushing through imposter syndrome and nerves. And so really, Christine, I did work hard. I worked hours a day at it. I did sacrifice things. I had a very limited social life in my early teens. And, I was working on the mindset side of things.
So you were precocious in many ways, it sounds like. And I think it's a universal experience probably that when you're starting to get kudos and pats on the back, that's where you're starting to put your focus and attention, because it feels good. And I knew you were a champion, but I didn't know you were as young as 13 when you got that achievement. Okay. So what would you say we talked before we pressed record about women who are in midlife and beyond, and they are striving, and yet they're also finding persistent difficulty as well. So maybe we can talk about what high performers are able to get to do, and also what is the possibility, what is the landscape, the runway ahead of that midlife woman who is feeling currently a little overburdened, a little bit fried, perhaps a little bit disheartened that she's gotten to this point in her life, and maybe she hasn't really completely filled all of her dreams, which is very understandable. We're all in process. I'm just wondering if you can help us with, because I'm one of those women too, right? To see what can we do that is not going to be overwhelming, that really will help us to be champions in our own lives.
Yeah, beautiful. Probably 10 years ago, I was at a pretty vulnerable time in my life, and emotional vulnerability was pretty high. And there was a thought leader that I had went to one of their events. And from stage, they were beating their chest, screaming and saying, take massive action, take the big action. That's what winners do. And I started taking massive action and I felt miserable and I felt burnt out. And I just thought to myself, we're not designed as humans to take massive action and scream and shout and do 18-hour days. And so I'm very much the opposite. I'm like, take the smallest actions you possibly can and just don't stop taking them. Every day, do something tiny that I could do that today. And the chances are you'll do it maybe 2 or 3 of those tiny things and they'll stack. And 2 or 3 or 4 months later, you've got progress. 5 years later, you're going, whoa, I'm in a different place. So Christine, I think the thing
before you go on, could you give us an example of what you're doing? Just like one of those small actions currently. I'm just curious to give
absolutely.
Life to this. Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, a big challenge in my life has been physical exertion, like exercising vigorously. And I've never been overweight really, but I've never been ripped. I've never been like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Let's put it that way. I don't have the muscles. I don't have the desire to go to a gym and be around a bunch of people lifting weights. It's just not my thing. But I do have the desire to live long and be strong and be healthy. So my partner she was a personal trainer for many years. It's her life. She's an athlete. And so for me, it's like, what's the tiniest things I could do? So I travel a lot. I do a lot of keynote speaking on stages. And so for me, it's like in a hotel room, could I do something for 12 minutes on YouTube, which is a high intensity interval training? So I do the smallest workouts, but I just don't stop doing them. I keep doing them and keep stacking them. I'm getting healthier. I'm trimmer. I feel better about myself. Some days I do miss it. Things happen. I'm human, but I just get back on and do a small action. Because Christine, when I got a personal trainer and they pushed me really hard and I vomited right away, I was like, I don't want to do this. This is too painful. It's horrible.
It's kind of gross.
Yeah, it is. It's terrible. So I was like, I want to take it slow. I want to stack it so that I can gradually build up my strength. Same with reading, same with journaling, meditating, like start super slow and small.
Yeah. I'm thinking you're in New Zealand. I'm in the United States. What came to me when you were talking was how I feel perhaps in the American vibe, there is this push feeling, right? Like that small thing sounds good. I know you're getting results. You sound like you're loving it, but there is this kind of, well, is that enough? I don't know what the words are, but that's the thought that came to me, that there is maybe this idea that we should always be doing more. We should always be pushing ourselves beyond the vomiting threshold, that there has to be something outstanding about it. And I'm just curious about that. I'm just reflecting that that's what I heard. And I'm glad for you because I think that's a beautiful habit, right? Because you're busy, you're in a hotel room and you're still finding time to take care of yourself in a way that you might not even naturally desire, which is plus, plus, plus,
Yeah.
And then I'm thinking, how do you stay the course within yourself when there are other influences, like the candy bar or the Netflix or, I can do it. I can skip a week. These kinds of thoughts that we're all familiar with.
Yeah, no, great. So before I answer that, the one thing I want you to think about as a listener is do less, but better. Do less things, put less hours in, but just do them at a higher level of standard and be more focused on them, be more diligent with them. To me, that's what high performers are great at. They just do way less things, less juggling, but they just focus on the quality of the output. To me, that's
I love
crucial.
that. That was very clarifying. So thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And an example probably in my life, we'll go back 6 years. It's COVID. And my partner and I are watching Game of Thrones almost every day because, we can't leave our house. And we're drinking red wine. I was like, this is amazing. We get to stay at home. We're safe in our little bubble. And we watch TV and drink red wine. Now, 2, 3, 4 days of that, we're like, God, we're not feeling that good. Like, we're starting to feel a little average. So we both said, let's do 1 year, no beer. So 1 year, no alcohol. And as an Irishman, that seemed like a very foreign thing to do. But I said, okay, I want to do that. And it's going to be 1 day at a time. Why am I going to do that? Because in the past, when I've said, I'm going to Fiji, so I want the body to look trim, I can do it for, 45 days, no alcohol. Well, I'm going to do a year. That's a lot longer. Why? So for the person that's thinking they want to maybe get to the gym, or they want to read, or they want to do whatever it might be for themselves, ask yourself why and keep asking why. So my first why was, well, I've got a young son and I don't want to be the dad who's hungover. Like that's not a good dad, like who has low energy, who's saying, "No, we'll do that tomorrow, son. I'm not feeling good today." I don't want to be that dad. So that was the first one. Second one, I don't want to be in my 60s or 70s and getting liver problems or health problems that are alcohol related. Third one, money. I want more money in my wallet rather than, than the guy that's selling me the alcohol. So I had this list of 15 reasons, and every day I just go back to it. And I was challenged about 6 weeks in. I was hosting some of my clients and the former prime minister. And we're in this beautiful resort and we're getting a helicopter up into the mountains. We land on the snow and everyone's going to have a glass of champagne at the top. I'm like, well, this is difficult. This is my event. I'm organizing it. And at the top of the mountain, I had to make a decision. So I went back, I brought my little list on my phone. I went, be a better dad. And I reread the list while we were on the helicopter. I said, okay. We got to the top and I said to the helicopter guy, do you have any lemonade or any alcohol-free champagne? He went, of course we do. And I still cheersed and nobody said anything and I moved forward. So always having your why, your little list of reasons, to avoid the chocolate, to actually get to the gym, whatever it might be. That list of reasons is everything.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And sometimes writing things down, but I know that was in your book, at least in the earlier pages. It's like there's a value of having it kind of in front of you, right? So it's concretized. You can recall what are your values that you're working from. You spoke a lot about that in the book. What is your why? And I was going to ask you, and I can still ask you, I have found that people really know what they should be doing or want to be doing. That's never really so much a question, but it's kind of how am I going to survive the pathway? And what I think one of your answers would be, you got to always remember why, right? Because that's going to help you to just stay upright and stay performing and putting out the action. Are there other techniques that you help people to install so that they can just be more resilient against their own habits, their own older habits?
Yeah, absolutely. So the word should that you used a moment ago is really important. And often we can be should heads. Now, my Irish accent gets me in trouble. I did say should, okay? Yeah. And we say, I should go to the gym. I should read the book. I should get to bed earlier. I should drink less, whatever it might be. So catch yourself when you're saying those things. Just write down, oh, I said should gym, should eat less chocolate. And write all these things down over the next few weeks and start to go, okay, what's the opposite of I should not eat chocolate? Well, I will eat whole foods. I will be athletic, or I will be committed to working out, whatever the opposite of those shoulds are, and live by values. So in the book, I talk about your values make the vision. And if you've got this grand vision, but you've got no values, then likely you're going to just give up on yourself. You're going to quit on yourself. There's no police sitting on your shoulder going, hey, Christine, you didn't do the thing you were supposed to do, right? Nobody sees it, just you. So people often say, how do I find my values? Very simple. I want you to think about one or maybe two people that you love and respect. And all I want you to write down and think about is, okay, what is it that I love about them? What do I value about that person? Well, I value their honesty. I value their loyalty. I value their kindness. Write down these things and look for patterns. You'll find very quickly what your 3 or 4 key values are in life. And if you can start to live into those values, and in the book, I help people take a value from a word to a command. So it's actually like instead of, honesty, the command is always do the right thing. Super simple. It's not, not so very complex, or always do the right thing. For me, discipline is one of my key values. So what's the command? Do the work. So I get up in the morning, I see that as a mantra, do the work. Okay. So meditation is something I love, but something I resist a lot. And so I have to remind myself, do the work. Sit down, close your eyes, take a breath. And so those values into commands are so important, Christine.
Okay. I love that part of the book as well. By the way, there's a whole table in the book with these instructions. It's very simple. I really appreciate that. I'm a visual person. So again, the book's Habits of High Performers. And as you're talking, I'm hearing the loving voice that you speak with and also that you are teaching with. And I'm wondering, was there like that 13-year-old boy phase and beyond maybe, was there a different voice that was in operation? And if so, how did you convert to just be, well, we can just do this, and, to be very calm and regulated and not spiking your stress all the time?
Yeah, great point. When I was 13, living in a conflict zone, which was quite volatile, it was separated by religion, Protestants and Catholics. So there's always a little bit of an undercurrent. Secondly, mum and dad separated and got divorced around that age when I was 13, 14. I felt quite unstable, uncertain. My moods were very erratic. Into my mid to late teens, I started drinking alcohol quite a lot and then started traveling the world. And for me, it was just a relentless cycle of do more. You must do really well. And if you don't do really well, you're a failure and you're letting others down. And so I was in this constant rat race of perform, try and win, make money. And I mean, those things are not bad, but when they become your sole focus, it to me felt very destructive. And so in my early 30s, things just started to change. I was like, this can't be all there is. Just working long hours, trying to win, trying to beat everyone. This doesn't seem sustainable. So I had a bit of a turning point there and started to go inwards, sought good mentors, started going to events that were challenging me and getting me to look at things like emotions. Like, what's an emotion? I'm like, well, us blokes don't talk about emotions. And now it's like, well, actually, that's the answer. That's the key, is to go inwards. So yeah, definitely, I would say James at 13 versus James from early 30s onwards, very different person.
Okay. You mentioned going inwards, and I believe it was in the book where I read that when you're coaching high performers, that you encourage them to go into their heart. If that's the case, could you please describe that as a technique and maybe an example of that helping someone to really see what they need by taking like a different channel inward?
Yeah, of course. I talk about the fact that if we want to thrive, or another word for that is if we want to be high performers, we need to get out of our heads and into our hearts. And to me, that's where true thriving begins, is when we operate from the heart. And when you speak to someone, so if the listener can think of someone in their life, or maybe someone that they've worked for, and when that person has spoke to them from the heart, it lands in the heart. Like what comes from the heart lands in the heart. And so for me, I was in my head for the first 30 years of my life and could still be there possibly if I didn't actually start going inwards. So for me, the way to get from head to heart is to, one, slow down. So we've got to actually take a breath. We've got to get away from the chaos. And that could be get into nature. That could be a quiet place of meditation. That could be a beautiful walk. It doesn't have to be anything big or magnificent, just small things to detach. Next thing I always like to do is get onto the page. What am I thinking today? What am I feeling today? What's keeping me up at night? What's angering me? And anger is a thing I tried to push away from as I became a man. I was like, anger is not a good thing. It's a really terrible thing. But actually, I've really learned in the last few years, I've got to learn to tap in and express and not trap anger. And so the best way for me to get in there is to write. So every morning I write, every night I write, and it's very simple. I start with gratitude, which when you look at most journaling practices, I would say 90% of people will tell you it's a good place to start. The science will back that up. The next thing I'll write down is, what did I learn yesterday? What did I learn about myself? What did I learn about others? Next question, what went well? What did I actually achieve? Did I get that exercise in? Did I avoid that chocolate? Did I connect deeply with my son and my partner? And then what does 1% better look like? And so that gets me focused on forward movement, not sitting and ruminating. Say, well, what does 1% better look like? Not what does the best version of James look like? And that to me is overwhelming. The best version, I don't have the energy for the best version today, but 1% better, I could do that. That's achievable. So to me, Christine, that's the way to get out of the head and into the heart is silence, pull away, withdraw, go inwards using breath work, meditation, mindfulness, walking. And then if you can, get out of the head and onto the page. The head's a busy place at times. Get it all written down.
The head's like Grand Central Station. There's a lot happening there. Yeah. So
100%.
I love this. Thank you. I really love what you said, that what comes from your heart will land in someone else's heart. I've never heard that before, and I think it's really beautiful.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Now, I wanted to ask you about cortisol. So can I just jump topics and let's talk about cortisol? Because I am learning that that is something that really changes for women in their later years. And I just keep thinking, well, it's something that we don't really see this necessarily, except for when it shows up around maybe our midsection and maybe on our tracking rings and things like that. But I'm wondering if you could share with us your thoughts and your experience in helping people to say, let's make sure the cortisol stays regulated, and so that we're not always in some sort of passive stress mode.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so interesting. I meet people who have great plans and strategies and goals, and they have the want to actually move towards these things that they desire. However, internally, they don't have what they need. And so I talk in the book that high performance is hormonal. And if we don't have the hormones, the biochemistry to support us, we can have the best thinking in the world and the best tools around us. We will not pursue it. So let me give you an example. There's a study done on rats many years ago where these rats were very hungry, bordering starving, and there was food put in front of them, and they moved towards that food very quickly. However, when their dopamine receptor was blocked, they didn't move at all. We are no different. When our neurotransmitters are not functioning well, we don't pursue things. We feel lethargic. We get that 2 or 3 p.m. slump. We want to hit the snooze button. So cortisol is one of those things that when we wake up in the morning, it's at its highest. What do you think most people do when they wake up in the morning, Christine?
They put on their screens or they drink coffee. Both are probably cortisol spikers.
100%. So that screen thing right away. So the reason our cortisol is highest in the morning is that's what actually wakes us up. The cortisol spikes and the body goes, bing, let's go. We do not need to increase it. We need to do everything we can to pull it back down. So reaching for your phone, seeing the blue light, the dopamine that gets released from messages and scrolling, your cortisol just starts to build. So it's our responsibility to actually bring it back down. And men 35 plus and women 40 plus, cortisol starts to really spike and impact all of those other neurotransmitters, such as norepinephrine, endorphins, dopamine, serotonin. So this cortisol piece is actually quite manageable. We have got to think about what we're doing. A lot of men who I meet who are mid to late 40s, they're all about vigorous exercise and long distance cycling and a high intensity training. And yet they can't get rid of their belly, right? And for women, this is no different. I was like, look, ease up. Why don't you go for a swim? Why don't you go for a 15-kilometer walk in the hills rather than a massive workout at the gym? Why don't you meditate instead of lifting the weights today? Because our bodies will hold on to fat if it's under stress. Because under stress, when cortisol's up, your body goes, we need to protect. We are under threat. We need to store everything we can. So the first thing is to manage cortisol. Easiest way to do it, studies have shown that meditating between 2 to 5 minutes a day, after about 3 or 4 weeks consistently, they start to actually bring down cortisol. They increase estrogen in women, and they increase testosterone in men. Simply meditating, closing your eyes, focusing on your breath, having all the thoughts and then coming back to your breath, all the thoughts back to your breath. You don't have to clear your mind. You just need to slow down. So to me, getting cortisol under control is so important. Stop looking at the news as often as you do. Get off social media as much as you can. Have an old school alarm to wake up to, not your phone. Some simple things there, Christine, that hopefully will help your audience.
Thank you, and help me. Thank you so much. I love it. I'm glad I remembered to ask that question. That was important. And I want to thank you for being with me and my audience today. This has been completely lovely, informative, inspiring, all the things, and very loving. So thank you. And
Thank
I
you.
finally met someone who read the Guinness book thing cover to cover like I did. I would just repeatedly go to that book, just fascinated by people who could grow their hair and
their nails,
Yes, correct. And all the wonders that we all hold inside of us, right? We're each the same in so many ways. So thank you for sharing everything that you have grown to learn and all the trials and the growth that you have gone through. Thank you for being
My
who
pleasure.
you are.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a gift from James also. Could you describe this beautiful planner that you have to share with our audience?
Yes, absolutely. I want to give you all a free planner. Why? Because I often think that we listen to great podcasts like this, but then we get busy being busy. Our phone goes off. The people around us need us, and we don't really do anything after the fact. But we've got lots of ideas from these great podcast episodes. So my gift to you is a free high-performance planner. It's the same planner that I use, the people that I coach that are running countries, Formula One drivers, busy parents, people just trying to get their lives in order. It's exactly the same planner. So if you go to jjlaughlin.com actually, Christine, you probably have a different link for them, do you?
But why don't you drop yours and then I'll drop another one.
Easy. jjlaughlin.com/planner.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I myself am going to sign up for this planner, by the way. And I have another link for you that you can also use. Same planner. It's maketimeforsuccesspodcast.com/planner.
Use that one, folks. That's the best one.
Okay. So maketimeforsuccesspodcast.com/planner. Thank you for sharing that with us. This book, remember everyone, this is a huge, huge hit in my bookshelf. I'm really going to treasure this and return to this often. It's called Habits of High Performers, again, by James Laughlin. James, thank you. Gratitude to you.
Thank you so much, Christine. Have an amazing day.
You too.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Make Time for Success podcast. If you enjoyed what you've heard, you can subscribe to make sure you get notified of upcoming episodes. You can also visit our website, maketimeforsuccesspodcast.com, for past episodes, show notes, and all the resources we mention on the show. Feel free to connect with me over on Instagram too. You can find me there under the name Procrastination Coach. Send me a DM and let me know what your thoughts are about the episodes you've been listening to. And let me know any topics that you might like me to talk about on the show. I'd love to hear all about how you're making time for success. Talk to you soon.